Welcome to WYCE's Community Close-Up. Community Close-Up is our weekly public affairs program that we produce in partnership with the Rapidian, our hyper-local news service here at the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. Community Close-Up is all about bringing you a diverse perspective of viewpoints from community leaders throughout West Michigan. This is WYCE Station Manager Phil Tower in the studio this week with a return guest for Community Close-Up. Dana Romero is the Development Director for Donor Communications at YWCA West Central Michigan. So this is really exciting, and we're going to say this on the radio. That program that was from about a year ago with Allison Donahue, Program Manager at the Rapidian, and Dana Romero, was submitted for a national award, the Hometown Media Awards at the Alliance for Community Media, and it won Best in Category. We just learned that here at WYCE. So Dana and I were kind of joking that this program either better be award winning or something at least fairly close to that. So no pressure, Dana, on your second return to WYCE's Community Close-Up. We want to review the impactful programs, the life-saving and life-changing programs at YWCA West Central Michigan. You're all about eliminating racism, empowering women and girls, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. There is never enough peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all, even in a time where we should all be enlightened to the critical need for those things. But welcome back to the program, first of all.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Well, I'm glad you're here. We have an important event coming up we're going to tell you about. This is a fun event, which I think I went to this event a long time ago, and I think it's over 40 years old. It's a very important softball game fundraiser for YWCA West Central Michigan. But let's go back to the really central focus of YWCA, which is the programs you have. You have a lot of programs, Dana Romero, which is kind of hard for some people to unpack, but they're programs that really can be difference makers, life changers, lifesavers for the people you serve. So let's talk about highlighting some of your programs. First of all, hope and healing through what? Let's talk about what you do.
We have a plethora of services. One of the first things is our crisis services. So when someone calls the 24-hour helpline, they're going to reach, during our business hours, our advocacy resource services. And what's awesome about our advocacy services is we not only have crisis advocates, but we also have a legal advocate. During the mental health crisis, a lot of people were seeking counseling, but unfortunately, counseling it's hard to get still, whether it be just the capacity or cost. And what we found was that a lot of people calling in were just looking for someone to talk to, which is perfect with the crisis advocates because they can, offer a lending ear and support, and they're also trained specifically to be trauma informed. And it's free of cost because it's completely grant funded. And then our legal advocate, she helps people with PPOs. She can help people file for divorce, custody paperwork, and she has had a very high success rate with PPOs, like a 95% success rate. So that's great. And with how complicated our legal system is, to have someone to help you navigate that legal system, it's very beneficial, especially to survivors at a time when they're really struggling to put pieces together. So having someone to kind of hold their hand through that process is extremely helpful.
I want to go back to something you said, Dana, which is so critically important, that YWCA's 24-hour confidential helpline. And I want to give this out on the radio right now. It's 616-454-9922, 616-454-YWCA. Again, that's 9922, the last four digits. And you were mentioning the fact that this allows people to have someone to listen to them when they feel stressed, maybe when they feel hopeless, maybe when they're feeling like they have no other options. They're really feeling like they've run out of options in whatever crisis or trauma situation they may have been dealing with or feel they are going to face again. it doesn't need to get to a crisis level, which sometimes it often does. But you mentioned something that was so accurate, Dana, and that is counseling is not readily affordable, and it's more importantly beyond the cost. You may be fortunate to have insurance that covers emotional counseling, mental health counseling, and services, but the availability of counselors is a shortage, especially at all levels, as a lot of these social workers and counselors and psychologists are retiring, and there is a critical need because of the stresses that we're all dealing with, stresses on the mental health services and the safety net that we have in so many communities. So that's a really valuable thing. And it's staffed locally here in West Michigan?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So right at our 25 Sheldon Avenue building. So our advocacy services is housed there. All of our programs, besides our safety shelter, are housed in the Sheldon building.
And those who are reaching out for legal help, maybe they have a PPO in place in the situation, the domestic violence, or any type of abuse situation. That's another great resource. And these are trained people provided through the YWCA West Central Michigan. By the way, you can learn more at YWCAWCMI.org, YWCAWCMI.org, or you can just Google YWCA West Central Michigan. It'll get you right to their website. It's hard to believe, Dana Romero, that in 2025, domestic abuse is still a common thing. It still is. It's a difficult thing to talk about. And the services the YWCA provides here in West Michigan are still very vital. They're still very needed. Kind of give us an on-the-ground look at how domestic sexual assault, domestic abuse, crisis situations are being handled today.
So here's the thing that I want to touch on, and it's prevention. So we do a lot of intervention work, which is where the crisis services come in. But one thing that I think people don't realize is the education portion. And in order for us to get to the root of the problem, we have to focus on the education. And I think there's such a stigma behind intimate partner abuse and sexual assault, sexual abuse, because people just don't want to feel uncomfortable. But it's important for us to feel uncomfortable to grow and to be able to know, what the real issues are out there. As an agency, we want to be there not only to help people who are in those crisis times, but also to educate, also to empower people. That's the big thing. That's what makes us different, is that we work to empower people, to empower survivors, so that when they exit our program, they have this sense of autonomy. They don't feel like they have to go back to their abuser, and they're making their decisions and no one else is making them. It's them.
And the whole idea, like you said, is preventing the situations where they have to seek some time in your domestic violence shelter, or they're at a point where they're in a true crisis situation. They've fled their home, or they are unhoused, or really between housing situations, maybe trying to find a family member, a friend to live with because of an abuse situation or a sexual assault situation. And we should note this is not just adults, it's people of all ages. If it's a situation where you've got someone who's been in a relationship or maybe a situation where there has been abuse in a family, I'm so glad you said what you said. This is something not to be ashamed of. It's something that we need to continue to educate on. And you do a lot of education, a lot of prevention training, a lot of awareness. Can you talk a little bit about that and the programs at the YWCA?
So what we really try to do with prevention is we like to lean into our public facing stuff. So, whether it's our social media, our website, when we have the ability to be on the news, that kind of thing. We do want to focus on getting back to more prevention programs, but that does take time to build and also funds. But we really would like to get back into that piece, because prevention is just as important as intervention, if not more important, because we can put out fires left and right, but that doesn't solve the problem. So we definitely try and make sure that the public understands what intimate partner abuse looks like, what sexual assault looks like, just combating those myths, because if the public knows that, then they're more likely to educate other people and also know where to send survivors, and just have an awareness of those services.
We're speaking with Dana Romero. Dana is the development coordinator for donor communications at the YWCA of West Central Michigan. Before we run out of time, we've got about 4 minutes or so left in the program. I want to talk about the importance of fundraising for the YWCA West Central Michigan. One of their signature events is coming up. This is the 41st annual Women Lawyers versus Judges charity softball game. This is happening on Saturday, June 7th at LMCU Ballpark, 4 p.m. first pitch. There's also a barbecue dinner celebration that happens as well. And, of course, a Whitecaps baseball game followed by fireworks. So this is a wonderful fundraiser. Something you told me before we turned on our microphones, Dana, a lot of organizations are facing very uncertain and very stressful times because of all the threats with the current administration with polling funding. Mm-hmm. And the YWCA West Central Michigan is right here in Grand Rapids is facing a significant threat. You said, what, 50% of your funding is at risk?
Yeah. At the moment, 50% of our funding is through federal grants. So that puts a huge strain on us not knowing what's going to happen. If we lose 50% of our funds, that's,
it's catastrophic.
It's catastrophic. It's, that means we're not able to serve like the over 5,000 people that come in, and it's necessary for us to be here. There's no one in Grand Rapids that does all that we do. And if we don't find a way to make that money, then we don't know where we're going to go. So it's really a critical time for us to lean on the community for help, because we want to make sure that we are there for survivors.
One of the great ways you can get involved is the 41st annual Women Lawyers versus Judges charity softball game, a major fundraiser for YWCA West Central Michigan. In fact, I was reading on your website, this has raised a little over $500,000 in the 40 plus years, mm-hmm. which is awesome. Mm-hmm. Tickets are incredibly affordable. And that's $45 for adults, $25 for children, ages 3 to 12. That general admission ticket gets you attendance to the softball game. Mm-hmm. Then you get to see the Whitecaps game. You also, of course, get to take advantage of the dinner as well. And there are sponsor opportunities as well. You were telling me you can still welcome sponsors. Can't get them in the program, but you can give them lots of love on social media. Mm-hmm. If someone would like to step alongside you guys and support this wonderful event, the Lawyers versus Judges charity softball game on June 7th, they can get a hold of you through the YWCA, Dana Romero, through the YWCA West Central Michigan, and they can get involved that way. Otherwise, they can get a ticket through the website, right?
Yeah, so they can go to the website, and if they click on the link, it'll take them to the Eventbrite page, which, just to point out, so we have the 2 levels of tickets. So the celebration deck tickets have that barbecue.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, but if people don't want to pay for that to do the barbecue, then it's just, for general admission, it's $25 for adults and $10 for the kiddos. The celebration deck, what's nice is that this is open to the public this year, where last year it was just for the players and their families.
Okay.
So we're really excited to be able to offer that. And with the Whitecaps basically rebuilding their facilities, this Cove is a brand new deck.
It's going to be a great space and a great opportunity to really support the powerful and impactful programs of the YWCA West Central Michigan. And again, 41st Annual Women Lawyers versus Judges Charity Softball Game, Saturday, June 7th at LMCU Ballpark. Let me tell you again where to get tickets. So YWCA WCMI.org. YWCA WCMI.org is where you can get tickets. If you can't make the softball game, would you do Dana and everyone at the YWCA West Central Michigan a favor and make a donation? They could really use your support. They can donate securely right on your website, right?
Yep, they can donate through our website, and there's the option of, making a one-time donation or becoming part of our Persimmon monthly donation club, which obviously we really appreciate. Certainly. You know what it's like working for a nonprofit and how important the monthly donors are. So we could always use more of those.
Dana Romero, they are the development coordinator for donor communications at YWCA West Central Michigan. Dana has been our guest on this edition of Community Close-Up here at WYCE. The time went way too fast, but I'm so glad we could let people know about the importance and really the urgency of supporting the programs here at the YWCA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to WYCE's Community Close-Up. Community Close-Up, our weekly public affairs program, produced in partnership with the Rapidian, a hyperlocal news service here at the Community Media Center. This is WYCE's Phil Tower, and thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week right here.